old Gary Bolton, he got involved with lots of things with the City Council as well. And he was very instrumental in the Year of the River. And I was fortunate to be on the Year of the River Committee. And Gary Bolton said, well, why don't we have our committee meetings on the Coorparoo Queen? So I had to begrudgingly go to these meetings every week, or every month, on the Coorparoo Queen and did the cruise. Tough, it's tough, but somebody had to do it. Anyway, thank you very much.
It's really one of my most favourite photos and memories of the work for Expo 88. As you can see, there's a poster of the Coorparoo Queen, and in the background there's the Coorparoo Queen floating down the river. So, what was special about World Expo 88? First, it was one of the very few expositions close to the equator. So there was a definite nighttime, daytime hue to it, unlike the ones in the Northern Hemisphere, which had been mainly held, sort of around London, Spain, that sort of latitude. And there wasn't really a nighttime exposition. Brisbane had a definite nighttime exposition. And Bob Minikin tells a story where there was really a duel between Rick Birch and John Truscott, the two heavyweight intellects in the operation and the running of Expo 88, to try and get the upper hand on the best display at night. John Truscott, more in charge of the physical installations, the lighting, and Rick Birch in charge of the moving parades and the nighttime costume, the nighttime entertainment, the fireworks and that sort of thing. And that was very special about Expo 88, and again it'll feature a little bit later on. Now, some of the other things when Graham and I were working to look into the history of what happened at Expo 88, the collection of artwork that was acquired by Brisbane was acquired not to remember Expo 88, it was actually acquired as a bit of a boost to the 96 Olympics bid that Brisbane was making in competition against Melbourne and Sydney to host the 96 Olympics. We'd run for the 92 Olympics, we lost. We had all those quite thin style Commonwealth Games facilities that were the centrepiece of our bid. So Sallyanne spent 1.7 million and went out and populated Sleeman Centre, Boondall and other places with new artwork to freshen it up. Now, as it turns out, that was a fantastic investment. That $1.7 million is worth about $10 million today. And this piece hasn't even gone up on display. It's still in storage. An amazing piece, made for night time, as you'll see on the next slide. So, on the left is Paradigm at night time. And it had the first computerised lighting system in a sculpture in the world. And you can see on the right hand side, sitting in the factory, and in the middle, packed up, ready to come to Australia. Now, this particular sculpture is still sitting in a warehouse. It was sitting externally until Graham took a bit of an interest and then decided, yes, we better protect this thing and put it inside. And it's waiting for the day when the Expo 88 Art Trail is so well established as a centrepiece of tourism in Brisbane that this piece can then go back up on display. Now, its problem was that it was also the first computerised, first sculpture in the world to be designed with the aid of a computer. And they were using punch cards back in the 1986-87 period of time when it was designed, and they got the calculations slightly wrong. So it's over-engineered for lateral sway and under-engineered for vertical load. So what would happen is that in a cyclone, it would snap, and that would be particularly good. So in a warehouse it is sat, but hopefully not for that much longer, especially not as the World Expo 88 Art Trail becomes established as Brisbane's premier art, tourist and historic narrative, which is what I'm working on. Now, coming back to the night time of World Expo 88, how's this? Isn't that spectacular? This is a piece called Showdown. It was made by a Tasmanian sculptor. He was a TAFE teacher. He made 3 monumental sculptures in his lifetime before he passed away, I think in 2006. Chris Beardsworth is his name. Notionally, it is worth nothing. But it was made for night time. It is quite spectacular. It sat for years out at Burndall, going to rack and ruin, until I convinced the Lord Mayor to save it. And it's now sitting centre place up on Spring Hill, opposite the Centenary Pool. As you can see, it's a bit hard. The blue sign says World Expo 88 Art Trail. And as you can see on the next sign, there's an integrated narrative to it. Across the street, as you can see by the enlarged photo on the right-hand side, there is a plaque that gives the details to it. So people in the park area having a picnic can now look at it and engage with it. At night time, it's brilliant. It's got the World Expo 88 sign on, but it links now to another piece of great World Expo 88 history that was effectively lost in this place, which is the Inukshuk. This piece was saved after World Expo 88 by the member for Greenslopes, a National Party member. Leisure Harvey. Was she a Democrat? No. I think she was. She went from the Liberals to the Nationals. Anyway, she headed up what was called the River Committee. And that was a play back in the day in the 1988-89 period of time to take away a little bit of the publicity that Sallyanne was getting for her push to make the Brisbane River, the centrepiece of tourism. So this piece was acquired for about $80,000, and it is as tall as from the floor to the ceiling. It is quite substantial, beautiful piece. And it sat at the back of the library for yonks, couldn't see the river. And then when the State Library was redeveloped, it just went into storage, and then David Hinchcliffe, I'm fairly certain, and I'll give David the credit because he's a good guy, saved it and then made sure it went back up on the public display, but really only if you were a cyclist. But as you said, the sign, if I knew how to operate this, it's got a laser pointer. Actually now makes reference to the Inukshuk, so it's a bit of an integrated Expo 88 area, the same as Manning Street, where we've got 3 or 4 all linking together. Now, going back to John Barlow Hudson. So, the beautiful Paradigm and John Truscott. John Truscott had an absolute fetish for 88. So, the Stephen Sky Needle, the Night Companion, was 88 metres tall. Paradigm, that beautiful piece that's in storage, is 8 metres by 8 metres. It was originally 100 foot high. Yes, it is 100 foot high. It was made 100 foot high to match the Endless Column, which is a world famous World War I memorial in Hungary, I think it is. But that was an American interpretation of a European height, and it wasn't the same height. So when it arrived in Australia and they realised the error, John Truscott made Paradigm 2.8 metres taller than the Endless Column, and he did by putting it on a huge print. This piece here, this is the Marquette. So that's the model that was made before the main structure, and it stands at 1988 millimetres tall. And it is a beautiful piece now on display in front of the State Library, and it is sitting there as the linchpin from the Expo 88 Arts Trail into the great collection that can now be found in the John Oxley Library, because the fellow on the right, James McCormack, one of the architects for World Expo 88, he was world renowned as an Expo architect, designed the very famous 67 Montreal, I think it is, pavilion for Australia. And he migrated up to Brisbane, and he set about beating the drum and trying to get an expo for Brisbane, and eventually he achieved it. And he gave, originally, after the 20th anniversary, a bound book of all of his memories to the John Oxley Library. But during the 25th anniversary, John McGregor and I convinced him that the originals, the thousands of letters and documents, plans, big maps, as you can see, of the original concept plan for an expo for Brisbane. And it was actually underneath the Story Bridge where Howard Smith wharfs are going out across the river. It's just an amazing bit of history. And he donated all of those records into the John Oxley Library, as did John Barlow Hudson, as has a lot of other people donated memorabilia. And on the right of that, well, in the middle of that, there is a plate, a Nepalese hand-carved plate. And I can pay tribute to Rick Jeffries for finding that. He found it in the Green Slopes. The old second-hand place, the one that was just reopened. So I went up and acquired it. Cost a fortune, $25. But it is a beautiful piece, and it tells the whole story. It's got everything, all hand-carved on it. Now, Lynn Myers, who's standing on the left, is holding the arm of one of the dancers that is now in Manning Street. And that arm is also going to the John Oxley Library, purloined from the Brisbane City Council. I don't think they even know yet that I've done that. And it's just, as I said, it's just the John Oxley Library has an incredible record base now on World Expo 88. Prior to 2012, there was almost no record sitting in it. And another great contributor, who has recently just passed away, is Gary Vulcan, shown here sitting down. And that's the day that he handed over the visitors book from the Coorparoo Queen, and it had about 2,500 signatures of people who had meals at Expo 88. It was a visitors book only for Expo 88, and it included Mick Jagger. And Mick Jagger went to the most expensive seafood restaurant in Australia at the time and had children's pork sausages for tea. And Gary had that book, obviously, for 30 odd years. It was last year he donated it. It was 29 years. And he'd never noticed the comment by the person below. He'd always looked at that particular page. It was well worn, and the book just fell open automatically with the page. Because obviously he told the story, everyone who went and had a cup of coffee and oh, look at this big Jagger on the book. And the person below had written, I can't believe it, I've actually sat next to Mick Jagger and saw him eat pork sausages for tea. So really quite funny. Right.